I would like to summarize the article, When Meanings Matter, Look But Don't Touch, The Effects of Posture on Reading, by Christopher C. Davoli, Feng Du, Juan Montana, Susan Gavrick, and Richard A. Abrams. The year of publication is 2010, and it's from the journal Memory and Cognition. There were 3 experiments done to try to prove the position of your hands made a difference. The experiments were conducted by having the subject in 2 positions, proximal and distal. The proximal position had a subject on a chin rest holding a computer screen with 2 hands. The distal position had a subject on a chin rest without holding a computer screen. The first experiment involved sensible and nonsensical sentences. For example, a sensible example would be, Tim carries his suitcase to the car. A nonsensical example would be, Tim typed his suitcase to the car. Studies found that the proximal hand posture compared to the distal hand posture, subjects lacked accuracy in identifying nonsensical sentences. The sentences in the study, because they were grammatically correct, may have proven impaired judgment on the accuracy of the statement, which led to the second experiment. The second experiment involves the Stroop interference effect, which is a cognitive phenomenon in which meaning of a color word interferes with the response to the color in which it appears when the color is incongruent with the meaning. For example, seeing the word red written in green is incongruent and leads to confusion to the correct response. The subjects were tested in the same conditions as experiment 1, but were tested on the Stroop effect as well. Studies found that at the distal hand posture, subjects had a more difficult time distinguishing incongruent color words than with the proximal position, but both postures showed lack in accuracy of incongruent color words. They couldn't come to any conclusion whether or not the position of the hands on the material could prove lack of systematic processing or enhancement of color processing. The experimenters didn't know if the variable of discomfort in the position they were put in played a role in the experiments, which led to the third experiment. The third experiment was identical to the second experiment, except the distal position was more uncomfortable than the previous. While in the distal position, the subjects' hands were behind their backs with their fingers on the buttons. The studies show very little difference from the previous experiment. Overall, they were not able to prove or disprove their hypothesis, but rather discovered that the semantic processing of words was easier when the reading material was at a distal position, and that the spatial processing, the Stroop effect, was easier at the proximal position.